Hi guys, Anna here from English Like a Native. Today we're going to do a little exercise to help us to boost our fluency. I'm going to show you how to jump up from level B1 up to C1, and I'm doing this once again with the help of Sensations English. So Sensations English is a fantastic website, a great resource for anyone who's learning English, and after this lesson, if you want to go and check them out, they're offering a 7-day free trial, which is amazing. Anything for free, go and make the most of it and see if it's going to help you in your language learning journey. I've just realised that some of you may not know of Sensations English, so let me give you a quick overview. Sensations English is a site that you would use in addition to your current learning. So if you're doing a course, if you're studying for an exam, if you're just using YouTube videos to learn the language, then Sensations English is a fantastic additional resource to really help you to improve your level. Now, Sensations English do offer a Find Your Level test. So if you're not sure of your level, then they are there to help. You can take the test today for free. Fantastic. Now, Sensations English have over 600 lessons available, with 3 new lessons being released every week on Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays. All the lessons are focused on current news. So this is real life, real world vocabulary that you're going to be working with. You'll see the lessons are organised into topics. We have community, culture, entertainment, hard news, innovation, lifestyle and natural world. So there's something for everyone. Now there are 2 types of lessons, the written and listening lessons or the video lessons. I'm going to open up a video lesson here and show you. So you have the video at 5 different levels, and you'll also have the transcript below each video if you feel you need it, as well as subtitles within the video as well. And then below, you'll see there's lots and lots of interactive games to work with. So you're really getting a full, well-rounded learning experience. And then at the very bottom here, some additional interactive tools as well. Right, back to the lesson. Let's see what we're going to work on today. Normally, I like to use one of their fantastic video lessons, but today I've chosen one of their listening exercises. So I've chosen from the community tab, the Mexico Border Seesaws Win Award article. So let's open this up. Now you will see here that we can choose which level we want to listen to this article in. We can either have A1, A2, B1, B2 or C1. So I'm going to choose B1 to begin with. And here you will see below we can listen to the article and we can also read it at the same time. So let's have a listen.
Border Seesaws win Design Prize, 1st of February 2021. A collection of bright pink seesaws on the border between the US and Mexico has received the Design of the Year award. The seesaws, which are called the Tita Tota wall, were put in gaps in the US-Mexico border wall. The seesaws allowed people from both sides to play together across the border. The Tita Tota wall was designed by Ronald Rael and Virginia Sanfratello, who teach at American universities. Videos of the seesaws went viral. However, the playground equipment was only in place for around 20 minutes. Rael and Sanfratello spent 10 years on the project. They wanted to talk about the border issue in an interesting way. The seesaws represent the relationship between the 2 countries, that people are connected on both sides, and what happens on one side affects the other. The prize is awarded every year by the Design Museum in London. It also recognises the best designs in 6 categories, which include architecture, fashion and transport. Tim Marlowe, the chief executive and director of the museum, said, "The Tita Tota wall encouraged new ways of human connection." The creator said they were totally surprised by their win. However, they hope their work will inspire people to build more bridges instead of walls.
Fantastic. So now you've heard the B1 version. You may have read along at the same time. The point is you understand the context now. You've got the story. So now if we listen to a more advanced version of the story, you should still completely understand, despite the fact that there'll be words that you've never heard before. And this is where I think Sensations English is a very exciting resource, because it allows you to challenge yourself, but also gives you all the tools you need to make that progress. So let's take it up 2 levels to C1. And here you'll see a completely different version of the same story. Let's have a listen, shall we?
The Wall That Builds Bridges, 1st of February 2021. The Teeter-Totter Wall has been awarded the prestigious 2020 Design of the Year prize after it succeeded in an unlikely act of unification by bringing people together on both sides of the Mexico-US border. The collection of luminous pink seesaws enabled the young and the young at heart in both countries to engage with each other. Breaching the US government's controversial border wall, the seesaw's intense fuchsia beams slotted between the slats of the metal barrier. Despite being dismantled after a mere 20 minutes of fun, this unusual cross-border connection attracted praise from around the world after viral videos of the installation flooded social media. Installed by University of California's architecture professor Ronald Rael and San Jose State University's associate professor of design Virginia Sanfratello, the seesaws have been a decade in the making. The creators hoped the design would encourage a reassessment of the effectiveness of borders. According to Rael, the installation was intended to stimulate dialogue in a very frank way, but using humour. The wall became a literal fulcrum for US-Mexico relations, Rael wrote at the time. Children and adults were connected in meaningful ways on both sides, with the recognition that the actions that take place on one side have a direct consequence on the other side. Tim Marlowe is the director of London's Design Museum, which oversees the prize. He explained that the seesaw had struck a chord within the judging panel for its capacity to stimulate human connection. It remains an inventive and poignant reminder of how human beings can transcend the forces that seek to divide us. Astonished at the unexpected honour of their win, Rael feels the recognition comes at an apposite time as the incoming American administration inspires hopes of a sea change in US border policy.
Brilliant. So now we're going to go through the script, the story, the article, not the script. We're going to go through the article and pick out any words that are advanced or different and that you may not be familiar with. And we'll just make sure that you're clear on all of those words. So the Teeter-Totter Wall has been awarded. To be awarded something is to be given an award. So we can just use that as a verb, to be awarded. They've been awarded the prestigious means very respected. It's a very respected, highly respected 2020 Design of the Year prize after it succeeded, so it was successful, in an unlikely act of unification. Unification means to unite, to bring together. Unification, by bringing people together on both sides of the Mexico-US border. By the way, I'm using my phone, and this allows me to point out to you that Sensations English have just released their app, which is great. It means you can now use their fantastic site on the go. Okay, so carrying on. The collection of luminous pink seesaws. Now, luminous normally means something that reflects light or has very bright light. It can also mean very beautiful, so it's bright and beautiful. Okay, so these bright, beautiful pink seesaws enabled the young and the young at heart in both countries to engage with each other. So to enable is to give someone the ability to do something. And the young at heart, this is a lovely phrase, and it just means old people or older people who are still very playful, like being a child. But it doesn't mean immature, it just means playful, so young at heart. To engage with each other. To engage is to interact and connect. Breaching the US government's controversial border wall. So to breach something is to go over it, to break it. If you breach the guidelines or the rules, it means that you break them. You go beyond the limits of what they say you should do. So they breached the wall, they've gone over the wall. Controversial. Controversial is a great word. Controversial, let me just get the exact meaning here. It means to cause disagreement or discussion. So there's always lots of controversial things being spoke about in the news. So things that cause disagreement and discussion. So we've breached this controversial border wall. The seesaw's intense fuchsia beams. Now intense means strong, and fuchsia, it can either be a colour or a flower, but in this case it's the colour, and the colour is the colour between pink and purple. Yeah? So the intense, the very strong pinky purpley colour, beams, slotted between the slats of the metal barrier. Now to slot is to place something usually between two things. It's to put something in a place among other things, and it's a place that's very well fitted. So you slot it in. So you might say someone slotted in very nicely to your life, but we often slot things into place, into position between two things. And we're talking about these slats of metal. A slat is a thin piece of wood or metal that's usually used in things like furniture. So you'll have slats on the base of your bed or on some cupboards. Some blinds, I have some slatted blinds, and there's just these thin pieces of wood that turn. So that is a slat, a long, thin piece of material. And these are slats of metal barrier. Despite being dismantled, so to be dismantled is to be taken apart. Despite being dismantled after a mere 20 minutes of fun, so mere here means a small, unimportant amount of something, a mere 20 minutes, it wasn't very long. A mere 20 minutes of fun, this unusual cross-border connection attracted praise from around the world. So praise is comments of well, it's like likes and comments of support. So praise, wonderful, you're amazing, this is fantastic, we love it. Where am I? Attracted praise from around the world after viral videos of the installation. So the installation is normally used for art that has been installed somewhere. So it's not just a picture on a wall in an art gallery. It will be like something that's installed in a space. Does that make sense? So the installation here is the actual seesaws. Seesaws. Installation. Viral videos of the installation flooded social media. So here we're using the word flood metaphorically. A flood is normally a huge amount of water in a place where it doesn't normally live. So if there's lots of heavy rain, there'll be floods. But we can use it metaphorically to talk about a large amount of, here we're talking about messages that have come in. A large amount of copies of the video have flooded social media. Installed by University of California's architecture professor Ronald Rael and San Jose's State University's associate professor of design Virginia San Frateo. I hope I said that right. The seesaws have been a decade in the making. Now this phrase is a common phrase again, to be something, so a year, a week, a month, a decade, a century, in the making, is just a fancy way of saying it took that long to create. So this particular installment has been a decade in the making. It's taken 10 years to create this. The creators hoped the design would encourage a reassessment. So a reassessment is like a rethink. So rethink of the effectiveness of borders. According to Rael, the installation was intended to stimulate dialogue. Stimulate means to encourage, to excite, and dialogue means conversation. So it was intended to get people talking in a very frank way, but using humour. So in a very frank way means a very honest, open and direct way. In a very frank way, but using humour. So still being fun, not being too serious and negatively emotional. The wall became a literal fulcrum. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, fulcrum. A fulcrum, this is a new word for me as well. So a fulcrum, I've got it written here, is the point at which a bar or something that is balancing is supported or balances. So if you imagine a seesaw or a set of scales, when you get it to the point where it perfectly balances, it's not weighed in either direction, it's perfectly balanced, that's fulcrum, apparently, the point of balance. So this is a literal fulcrum. So this it's you know, literally the seesaws are balancing. And the wall became a literal fulcrum for US-Mexico relations. Rael wrote, that's what Rael wrote at the time. Children and adults were connected in meaningful ways on both sides with the recognition that the actions that take place on one side have a direct consequence on the other side. So recognition is to understand and see something. I recognize that, I understand it. That the actions that take place is another way of saying happen. So the actions that happen on one side have a direct consequence is impact of an action, have a direct consequence to the other side. So if one side goes up, the other side goes down, vice versa. Tim Marlowe is the director of London's Design Museum, which oversees, to oversee something is to supervise, to watch it, to check everything is working how it should, which oversees the prize. He explained that the seesaw had struck a chord. So if something strikes a chord, it means that you understand it, you have a feeling of connection to that thing. So if I hear a mother talking about her difficult pregnancy and labour, then it would strike a chord with me. I would feel connected to what she was saying because I understand it, I feel it, I get it. So to strike a chord, to gain an understanding and a connection. So this seesaw had struck a chord with the judging panel. Panel is a name that we give a group of people that are chosen to do a job. So here it's a judging panel. So it's a group of judges who've been brought together to judge the awards. For its capacity to stimulate human connection. Capacity here just means ability. It remains an inventive and poignant reminder. Poignant means it's kind of like to be a bit sad. It invokes a sense of sadness and regret. So it's a bit sad. It's a bit sad and regretful. So it remains an inventive but a sad reminder of how human beings can transcend the forces that seek to divide us. To transcend is to go beyond limits. So it's usually to get better, to be better or bigger than the limits that have been set for you. Astonished, so astonished is to be surprised. Astonished at the unexpected honour of their win. So the honour that's been bestowed upon them. To be honoured is, again, to be highly respected and praised. The unexpected honour of their win. Rael feels the recognition comes at an apposite time. Now, apposite, not the same as the word opposite, is another new word for me. So fulcrum and apposite. This means apt in the circumstances or in relation to something. So it's apt for the circumstance. It's very appropriate for the circumstance. So here he says he feels the recognition comes at an appropriate time, basically is what it means, at the right time, at an apposite time. As the incoming American administration inspires hopes of a sea change in US border policy. And sea change means a profound, a big, noticeable transformation. Okay, so I've covered a lot of vocabulary there, and some of it, about 3 of those. So sea change is a phrase I've never heard before. Apposite and fulcrum were new to me. So if there's new stuff for me there as a native. I'm sure there's at least 1 or 2 new phrases or words for you there too. And hearing it within context of a story that you already understand is such a great way for you to absorb and experience that vocabulary. It's much better than just picking a word at random and trying to learn the meaning of it, because it has no connection for you, and so it makes it harder to learn. Now, this is how I like to work with Sensations English resources. I think it's really fantastic to challenge yourself beyond your level. I think it helps to stimulate a faster progression. Sensations English then also offer lots of interactive games for you to further explore each lesson. And so I do highly recommend this particular resource. Obviously they have sponsored this video, but I wouldn't work with them if I didn't think they were absolutely fantastic. So if you haven't taken a trial with them, then please do go over, make the most of that free opportunity to use their resource for a week. And if you have any questions regarding anything I've covered in this video, then please put it down in the comments section below. By the way, if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. I find that there's about 70 or 80% of my viewers are not subscribed, and so it'd be great to have you on board. I release new videos every week, and if you have some time now, then why not hop over to another lesson. Until next time, guys, take care and goodbye.